Hello, and welcome to Unsheathed with your hosts, Kyell Gold and Cam Hirosaki. We hope that you enjoy the program. Please stick around afterwards. There'll be cake and blowjobs.
Hi, welcome to our episode number 50 of Unsheathed. We are live at Rocky Mountain FurCon, a mile above sea level in Denver, Colorado, with a room full of 100...
It's going to be like half the con here.
Yeah, I'll say. Although it is Rocky Mountain FurCon, so half the con is still only like 100 people. But no, they have like 500 this year, in all seriousness. And we also have our first non-human audience member out there. Kiba, the white German Shepherd, is joining us. And may actually have a question for the panel. We will see in a little bit. We are recording episode 50 here. We had not released 49 yet, but we wanted to make this one kind of special. So this is our 50th episode. We started doing this almost a year ago.
Yeah.
And we have somehow managed to continue doing it. And for those of you who don't know, although I assume everybody here came here because they wanted to hear us, I'm Kyell Gold.
I am Cam Hirosaki.
And we're a couple of furry writers, and we sit down every week and talk about furry writing. We stray into the adult from time to time, but generally we talk about strong characters, good writing,
And ways to publicly embarrass me.
and ways to fluster the otter. For our 50th episode, one of our listeners, Fraudus the Fox, sent us an email which needs to be read. I'll go ahead and do that now if you have no objections.
I do not object.
He says, first, I want to congratulate you guys on reaching episode 50 of Unsheathed. I've been listening to you guys since the very beginning and have enjoyed listening to you answer questions about writing and other furry facts. Have you guys ever wondered how many questions were sent in the past 50 episodes? Who sent the most, or who all sent in questions? Never fear, after 16 and a half hours, 4 Shasta-Colas and 1 large smoothie, I have managed to gather those answers for you and everyone at Rocky Mountain FurCon. So the total number of questions that we have answered... I know, seriously. Total number of questions that we have answered on the air through episode 48, because 49 hasn't been posted yet, is 110, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
The third place people who sent in 3 questions each, Earthdigger, the Dog Bomb, and Fraudus. Not counting this one, I'm assuming.
Not counting this one. Not counting yourself, Fraudus.
Second place, with 5 apiece, Trendane, Pyro, and Kaz. And our most frequent, actually the most frequently read on the air, emailer is Condrol. Not a big shock to anyone who listens regularly. Who's had 12 questions answered out of 50 episodes, which means that we featured Condrol on about a quarter of our episodes.
I was going to say, has it only been 12? It feels like 30.
Ow!
Joking.
Wow, give an otter a couple glasses of beer and he gets mean. And we want to join Fraudus in thanking all of those who have sent in questions. I'm reading off his list here, so if I misspeak any of the names, I apologize for that. But Xerxes Otter, Pyrostinger, Dazzle, Candrol, Atari Otter, Sonata, Arnon, Not Tube, Confused, Kogo, Kite Phoenix, Foosball, Lu Wei.
I don't... Oh, Wu Wei.
Wu Wei. Who's actually here in the audience.
He's actually here.
Athelstan, Fraudus, Stink Dog, November, Visker's Mouse, Cinder Elm Creek, Skip with 2 P's, who is also here at the con. I don't know if he's out there in the audience.
There he is.
There he is. Oh, I have to scan way back to find him over those crowds of people. Shiro, Altivo, Mythic Fox, Trendane, Kaz, Geraldine, Earthdigger, Buckwolf, Normain, Drenth, Robin DF1. I remember trying to figure out how to say that. Newfur, who we met at Comic-Con. Folstar, Dimitri, Border, Theorin, Eli Lapso, Playa Roy. I remember him too, because we thought it was Playa Roy. And then I was like, my Southern California is coming in because I think it's Playa Roy. And you said he's not a beach.
Yeah, I think that B-Hop would agree with the Playa.
I think it's Playa Roy. K. Richard, Loran, Psy Cheetah. Fridays does apologize for misspellings, but he spelled Psy, Phsy. Storm Kitty, Running Cat, Caldraconis, Aiden, Cluffy, Gayleaf, Spots, Tasteless Wolf,
Spots,
Shira Takome, Andy, Kaltibilt, I remember that one too. Lovejoy, you have to do your Lovejoy voice.
Okay. I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for mentioning me on the podcast, Kyell. It's terrific to be included a part of this wonderful show.
Zarin Kitsune, TJ Fulf, Kindar, DJ Dragon, Odd, Blender, Matt Stewart, Dusk, The Dog Bomb, Zia McCorgy, who's also here in the audience, 1X, Delfer, Dragon Man Mike, who we did an interview with at, was it Rainforest last year? We did with, I think it was. Rivka, who is at the con, but I don't see him in the audience. Xavian, who we look forward to seeing at Rainforest again in about a month. An Australian Reading Wolf, and Makos.
Was it Machosi?
Machosi.
I think it's Machosi.
Friday says, happy 50th and keep writing. And Friday is an actor fox, so if you're all in Northern California, check out some of his productions sometime. Well, thank you, Friday. That is intimidating and a little bit worrisome.
I wonder, know what like state his mind is in if you're just listening to us talk for 16 hours.
Yeah.
I can't listen to me talk that long.
I have trouble listening to us talk through an entire show.
I can listen to our shows. I can't really listen to me doing.
No, I meant
the
while we were recording them. But, well, thank you.
Us.
Oh, us. Yes, indeed. Thank you for that. So thank all of you guys for coming out to see us. We love doing these shows and we love hearing from you. So does anybody out there have questions about writing or anything they want to ask us about our books or our stories? We have an audience mic. All right. We have a question from B-Hop. Don't step on Kiba's tail. Kiba is a wonderful podcast audience dog, by the way. He's very even-tempered and doesn't mind a big rabbit hopping over him.
So, LeBron.
Oh.
No.
Too soon.
It's great to see you guys again, though. By the way, so I got to do my voice acting workshop here at the con, and the scripts that I'd written for it. It was actually a lot of fun. I had put them together and sent them out to V6 to Alex Vance. To get some help on getting them rewritten, maybe spruce them up a bit. And the thing that was dazzling is how much he was able to make the characters come alive with the dialogue. He just found these turns of phrases, these words, this language that just really made it electric. And I got to admit, I felt a little humbled that I wasn't doing that with my own writing. But I was wondering, maybe with you, maybe you guys could talk about what is it that you do to pull more character specifically into the dialogue.
So, excluding my Lovejoy voice, which is more just an attempt to embarrass somebody and lose one of my friends. No,
if it were that easy, he'd have fled a long time ago.
Yeah, I'd bring him wine, so it's going to take that more than that to be rid of me. Now, when I write character dialogue in my head, I do try to picture the character delivering the words that I'm writing down. You know, as if it were like a movie or a TV show, which sounds like sort of like generic how to write dialogue advice, but it really does help. And if you're not sure of a line, just like read it out loud to yourself, like actually say it out loud and sort of think like, okay, like does that sound like something someone would say? And just kind of, getting into that habit. And to find an actual voice of the character, just to keep them consistent, that's just sort of part with keeping, having a handle on their personality.
Yeah, and there's a lot of character exercises out there that you can do. There's worksheets that people say fill out, what do they like? What are they afraid of? What do they desperately want? What would they choose in this situation? What would they choose in this situation? What was their favorite color? What did their parents do? Where were they brought up? And the more you think about where did they come from, where are they going, you get a sense for what kind of turns of phrase they use. One exercise is to just go to a well-traveled place, walk in a park, or sit in a fast food restaurant or something, and just listen to people talk, and write down the exact words that they use to say things. Because if you wait too long, if you kind of think, oh, that was interesting, and then don't write it down, your brain will turn it into something that you would say. If you write down the exact words when you hear them, then that preserves those turns of phrase. And movies and TV aren't a bad place to go for stuff like that, but movies and TV, it's kind of like you're taken from someone else's exercise who's already taken it from real people, so you're already a step removed. I carry around a little notebook, and if we hear interesting dialogue or interesting turns of phrase, we write it down, and I've on occasion used those in my stories for certain people. And sometimes you'll hear something and just think, oh, that's just how that person would talk. But getting a handle on the character, that's a great way to do it. And reading the dialogue out loud to yourself. What else?
I was going to say, I would avoid trying to come up with, like, pet phrases for all of your characters to have to differentiate them, because then it sounds really forced after a while.
Don't overuse it. But, like, I'm trying to think how else to say it. There's certain different rhythms to the way people speak when they're from different areas or different nationalities. Like, when you're trying to do a foreign language speaker, for instance, it helps to know the foreign language and not just know the way they're represented in popular culture. Because knowing the language tells you why they speak the way they do. You know, there's typical ways people represent Russian and Spanish and French people in the United States, but if you actually know how the languages are spoken, then you can get a real handle on how would a speaker of that language knowing English come over and speak English. If you visit the South, if you visit the Midwest, if you visit California, visit Colorado, Kit actually observed in Colorado, he said, I knew I was in Colorado because I was at the coffee shop and I heard like 4 or 5 people in quick succession talking about mountain climbing, hiking, bicycling, all the conversations very outdoorsy. So if you think, well, okay, my character is from Boulder, suddenly you're like, okay, well, what is he going to be thinking about? He's like, well, that sounds as tough as, climbing Pikes Peak in a December blizzard. And then you get those kind of turns of phrase.
I'm just trying to come up with another, like, really inappropriate analogy, but I won't. I'll be good.
And if you've been to a furry con, then you know how people talk at furry cons. And
that is true.
I'm just here for research.
That is an excellent example, Kyell.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sure. KG2, K-Fish.
Word.
Knuckles at a K-Tech while I'm here.
Thank you, B-Hop. Who else has something they'd like to talk about? Any question? Because if not, we're going to start. What are we going to start doing?
Oh, I think we have somebody talking here.
All right.
So this is Taryn.
Hey, Taryn.
Hello, Taryn.
And I wanted to get your guys' opinion of furry publications in the mainstream. Because Kyle's recently been to Comic-Con, and there have been a lot more furry publications coming out in real-world comic book shops, like Black Sad being reprinted by Dark Horse Comics. And I wanted to know what you guys thought of that.
One of the interesting things that someone observed to me about Black Sad, and I do apologize because I don't remember who it was, but I believe it was an email conversation. I think they said Black Sad could have been a furry publication, except the authors didn't identify as furry. And I think that's the case for a lot of stuff out in the mainstream. There's people out there who use animal characters. There was a great comic that we picked up by Evan Dorkin and Jill Thompson called Beasts of Burden. And it's about a bunch of neighborhood dogs who chase away monsters and evil spirits, not always with the best of success. But it's totally a furry book, except that the authors aren't furry. So, in a sense, there's already a lot of furry stuff out there in the mainstream. The separate question is, how about publications by people identifying within the fandom that take furry characters like, dog people as opposed to just dogs, and produce them, and what kind of reception are they getting out in the mainstream?
Yeah, and what I sort of see this as is you get a lot of people saying like, oh, like we just need like, somebody to write something furry to break into the mainstream. And I see that mentioned a lot, and I don't necessarily think that should really be like some goal. Like, oh, if we just do like one thing, we'll be noticed. Because like, if you look at Black Sad, like, yeah, I mean that's an award-winning comic, and it's very like well known to people who read comics. Like the average person on the street has probably never heard of Black Sad.
Right.
And I mean that's another thing. We are a niche within a niche, and even if we get one level up, we're still a niche, and it's not like everyone's going to be talking about furry stuff like it's Lost or Jersey Shore.
Well, I think the reason people say that is because I kind of relate furry stuff to cyberpunk, and cyberpunk sort of exploded at the time Neuromancer came out. Neuromancer won Hugo and Nebula Awards the year it was released. Suddenly, everyone was writing cyberpunk. There were mainstream articles about how cyberpunk was this new wave, and that lasted for about 5 years, and then it turns out that most people who wrote cyberpunk did not write as well as William Gibson, and it just kind of went away again. I mean, it hasn't ever really gone away, but it sort of subsided again, and it became something that people were aware of in the mainstream. So if you say to somebody, oh, cyberpunk book, and then you're like, oh, yeah, and you kind of have a feel for what that is, but most people probably couldn't name more than 2 or 3 actual cyberpunk books.
Oh, is that like The Matrix?
Yeah.
Is about what you'd get.
Yeah, exactly. Steampunk is another thing that's very much like furry. It's got more mainstream-friendly visual elements, and it's actually been around for a long time. If you look at the movie Wild Wild West, that was total steampunk. It was not a good movie, but visually it was...
Hey, but what's his name finally got his giant spider?
Yes. Yes. But it's only now starting to gather cohesiveness as a fandom. And I think furry is kind of very much in that same vein, where it's been around for a while. There's always been this sort of, hey, let's do stories with animal characters out in the mainstream, and people accept that to a degree, one degree or another. But at the same time, we were walking around Comic-Con showing off flyers for this wonderful blotch comic, which is going to come out in January. And most of the people we showed it to just said, wow, that looks amazing. It looks great. And that was it. And then you had one person we showed it to. One person who we showed it to said, why do they have to be dog-headed people? And there was just a disconnect. It just didn't click for them. And
you're like, because that's cool.
Because that's how we want to tell the story. Yeah,
Why does your main character need to wear a corset and goggles and carry around a big wrench? Because you think it looks cool.
I will say that the Girl Genius people are totally cool with furry.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
And actually, Phil Foley's been really helpful with Soulful, and his wife is really very nice. But and you totally derailed what I was thinking.
Furries.
Oh, Tycho. Penny Arcade. Like, Tycho and Penny Arcade said, I literally just cannot hold the image of a bipedal fox person in my mind. But he said, I consider that a failing on my part. And so I kind of want to investigate it more to see, is it just something that I need to get used to?
Of course.
Oh, yes, you do.
You were mentioned that day on the day they did a comic
the
about robot people being real people. So I think that's one of those weird things that some people just don't connect with.
It's interesting how, robot people are fine, but, dog-headed people are not. And, it's just one of those things. And I think it's not going to be, like you said, one thing that breaks out into the mainstream. We're not going to have, the furry Harry Potter. But what is going to happen is that it's going to become more and more exposed. And, like, a ton of people apparently learned about furry from the CSI episode because it was seen by millions and millions of homes. And, once they get past the whole, like, furcons are piles of fursuits, yiffing or scritching or whatever it is you're doing.
I see what you did there.
Then they started to say, well, that's kind of interesting that people do that. I don't know what else. Add something.
Okay. I was going to say, I didn't go to Comic-Con, but I was at WonderCon, and I probably saw as many people walking around in fursuit as I did see people walking around in homemade steampunk costumes. So, I mean...
Yeah.
There you go.
That was also my experience at the Anime Con we went to.
We're as good as
couple
steampunk.
whiles
Go
back,
us.
So.
Yay.
And hey, when you combine the two, you can't really lose.
That's true. Furry steampunk. It's the next big thing.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you, Tyrion. Yay. Anyone else want to say something? Ooh. We have a question from the True Donryu.
So my question is this. Writing comics, I don't necessarily have to develop a writer's identity, but with a few oncoming projects, I'm probably going to have to. Because when I do comics, it's really just about visuals to dialogue. But when you're developing your style and trying to convey a story, how do you approach that? How do you develop a personal style as opposed to just technically saying, he walked to the door or, do you see what I mean?
They sell those on Amazon, like the personal style store.
So you're talking about how you're just doing visuals and dialogue, but still storytelling and dialogue is still writing.
Yeah.
And so you're still using writing techniques and applying about the only thing that you're doing different is that you're just not putting prose down on paper.
Right.
The pacing, the narrative elements, it's all still there. It's all still fundamentally the same thing.
It is storytelling, but without as many words. And you're still building a world. It's just that instead of allowing that world to be built up through words in the mind of the reader, what you're doing is allowing that world to be built up through the visual details that you put into the backgrounds and the characters of every panel and the methods you choose to use, like watercolors as opposed to markers, as opposed to pencils and crosshatched inks, and these all give different feels to your world. And those are decisions that you make just the same as when you're writing. You decide whether you're going to go for a sort of punchy, gritty style or a more expansive high fantasy style, or...
Are you doing a really close third person, or are you doing first person, or... Yeah.
Right, or first person present tense, which is really stupid. No one should write a whole book in first person present tense.
Hey, I see what you did there. Punch.
Ow.
So how is it you developed your identity as a writer, though? When you go from someone like, say, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who is, Victorian-era detective novels, and yet there is no one else who can write like that. It is very distinctly his. As opposed to fantasy novels, where you have, say, Tolkien, as opposed to Emily Ron, who are very different, yet both very long-winded. And then there's you, who is very, you leave a lot to the imagination, while at the same time describing enough where we can piece it together. How do you come to that point when you're writing?
Well, I leave out description a lot because I'm lazy. And honestly, it's not as much fun as writing dialogue.
Take the compliment.
No, honestly,
I will beat you up, I
it's
swear.
sort of like...
I asked you not to.
I'd sort of put it at the same point, like, how does an artist arrive at a certain drawing style? Like, why does the style they draw look like that? Like, why does your writing come out this way? That's just sort of... You kind of just...
Well, the long answer is you steal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's the short answer is
Yeah.
you steal. The long answer is you read, and the things that you read, you steal from little bits from each of those particular authors. Sometimes they're really obvious thefts. One of the devices that I like to use is the sort of break in the paragraph, then align with another thought or a recollection from somewhere, like a memory intruding into the flow of the narrative, and then continue in the paragraph, which I stole from Stephen King, which I'm sure he stole from somewhere else, and that's just a very obvious style thing. But the books that you read inform the way that you're going to write, And just the same way that the art that you choose to appreciate informs the way that you draw, and the way that the music you listen to informs what you compose. And people starting out, and I was the same way. I was just like, I don't have a style. My writing's so generic, it's horrible. And eventually, the more you write, the more you think, I like when my prose sounds this way. And then when you get to a certain point, there's some exercises that we've been doing in our writing group about varying sentence length, varying the length of words that you use in sentences. So if you use lots of long words, it gives the sentence a very different feel and a different style than if you use very short words. Hemingway, very punchy, very short sentences, very clipped. Everything is brusque. Vonnegut, very long and meandering and indirect, and kind of talking to the reader sometimes and then pulling back and saying, well, the reason for this is, and then you take what you like from one thing, and sometimes you apply it to different works where it's going to be more applicable.
Yeah, and I mean, I like to think that, not all of my stories sound the same if you read them. There's certain similarities, I'm sure, but I try to think, in terms of each individual story, how I want it to sound. And I'm sure there's templates that I subconsciously choose from, but it's not like, okay, and because I'm writing the story, it has to sound like this. I mean, I try to vary it up, and I also want to make it interesting for myself.
But you can also use that. I'm sort of getting off topic, but it was like almost 3 years ago now, in my live journal, somebody challenged me to write in 10 different styles. Hi, Jonas. And I picked out a passage from Vol, and looking back on it, some of it was kind of clumsy, but it was an interesting exercise because I said, okay, I'm going to write this passage like Hemingway. I'm going to write this passage like Shakespeare. I'm going to write this passage like Stephen King. And it really lets you pick out what are those guys doing differently that makes them distinctive. And what do I like about that, and what do I not like about that?
Now I want you to rewrite a chapter of Vol as if it were written by Kyell Hirosaki.
Then he died and was sad.
See, now I was thinking out of position in iambic pentameter now.
Sort of a Homeric odyssey about a gay fox and a football player.
Shall I compare thee to a swishy fox?
Thou art more temperate and more bright.
Unsheathed, raising the bar.
Yes. Boom. Indeed. But good question, thank you. K-Tech, how's our time? You'll let us know when we have to move on to the next portion of the program, right?
Yes, to the bonus round.
Where all the scores are doubled.
That was my little spinny thing.
Really? I didn't think you did that in public.
He had a muzzle like a kazoo. Every time he wheezed, it would blow this shrill sound right into your ears that made the fur on the back of your neck stand up.
Wow. You just pulled that right out, huh?
From somewhere.
From somewhere. This is a well-lubricated otter.
Sorry, had to check.
That's fine.
It's water.
Hi, introduce yourself. We know who you are, but the people on the podcast
true. Hi,
can't hear.
I'm Damon Husky, and I accidentally became somebody's best friend at this con. Figure that out.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a couple of questions. I don't know if it's okay to ask two. The first would be, what, as somebody trying to write more betterer, what is a good standard? Because in a panel I was at recently, it's like publication is easy. You can go online, upload a PDF, and they'll put a cover on anything. So getting published isn't quite the high point that it could have been, years ago. So what is a good standard or a good goal to set for yourself as a writer that you could say, if I achieve this, then that's a milestone, that's a marker in my progress as a writer or an author?
Well, as far as publishing goes, there's a difference between, hey, I wrote this, put it together and print it for me, and, hey, here's something I wrote, would you like to publish this? And then they have to decide yes or no. So there's some of that to it. I do think that the vanity press phenomenon has been actually more of a detriment to the writing community than anything helpful for the most part.
It's hard to say because there's definitely there's something that makes people feel good about just seeing their work bound in a volume with a nice cover. And certainly it gets it out there to an audience. The problem is that, as you've noted, and even back before the explosion of self-publishing and print-on-demand and PDFs and whatnot, Vanity Press really never got anyone recognition. People would print stuff up and distribute it to family and friends. We ran into one guy who printed apparently like thousands of copies of his book and was distributing them for free on street corners in both Chicago and was Seattle the other city? I forget where else we were. Maybe it was San Jose. But we were in like two different cities in the span of a month, and we saw this same book being given out, and it was some Alaska wolf totem thing, and I think we picked up a free copy and never read it. So, there you go. You can drop 10 grand or 20 grand on a print run, and still, this guy was not the next bestseller. But what it has done is it's allowed people who do have that kind of creative spark to come to the attention of other people. And you're starting to see some success stories where people publish their webcomic or publish their story on the web. There's a book called House of Leaves, which was originally completely published on the web, and it became popular enough to where it was picked up and released as a bound volume. An editor at a publishing house decided, I can make money by releasing this under my imprint. So that's always a good milestone. There are a couple...
If people are willing to pay to read what you wrote.
Yeah, and so, if you're printing it yourself, maybe, you go to a Furry Con and you sell 30 copies to people you don't know. That's pretty good. If you go to one of the furry publishers and they say, yeah, we'd like to print your book, that's another milestone. If you get stories published in online zines, that doesn't really quite have the cachet it used to, just because there's about 100 of the online zines out there and they come and go. Like if you look at the online market for short stories, half the entries are defunct and half of the rest are no longer taking submissions. And
I'm actually wondering, how many people in this room remember what zines are?
Yeah, true.
I'm sure there are people who don't.
But I think, the first milestone is getting somebody to pay money, somebody who doesn't know you, interested enough in your story that they pay money for something you wrote. And the second milestone is getting somebody who read the first thing you wrote to come back and ask you for more and pay for something else. And after that, as you go on, you sort of become aware of these other vague milestones. It becomes a question of having a large number of people contacting you about your book, having people outside the furry fandom, for us, having people outside the fandom looking at your stuff. What else?
You covered the big ones, I think.
Having Hollywood contact you to have a movie made out of your book.
We think
invited.
We think America's ready for a gay football tiger.
Well, after Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, what was it Ewan McGregor and Jim Carrey in that
yes,
movie?
Yes.
That never got released here?
There was, in case you guys didn't know about this, there was a movie called, I Love You, Philip Morris.
Yeah.
Starring Jim Carrey and Ewan McGregor, who you'd think would be bankable stars in the United States, about a gay romance. A guy goes to jail and falls in love with his cellmate. Not prison gay, but like real gay. And it was released in England, but they could not find a distributor that was willing to pick it up here. So
it's like, you think like Jim Carrey and Ewan McGregor, you could sell a movie with either of those, but both of them, it's just like, hello.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd pay money to see Ewan McGregor kiss a boy.
Who was it that did it at the basketball game?
Oh,
recently?
it was
Dustin Hoffman.
It was Dustin Hoffman and Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman. That's it.
Way to go, Jason Bateman.
Yeah.
Grr.
Michael Bluth. Cheers.
I've made a huge mistake.
Now I'm just picturing him singing Afternoon Delight again.
Oh, God.
Wow, our TV show references are going further back in
I was
time.
going to say, Arrested Development was 30 Rock before there was 30 Rock, so I think it's okay.
All right, can I ask another question? Or?
Yes, sure, go ahead. You've got the mic.
I have the mic. Yes. Possession is 9/10 of the law. I guess another question I have is, you mentioned like the CSI episode. A lot of people found the fandom, got their first impression of what the furry fandom is from like CSI. Like there's at least 3 publishers represented in our dealer's den, and if I had to take like a quick guess on the percentage of literature that would confirm or enhance the image that CSI has, there seems to be a lot of stuff that is definitely driving at the image of furries yiffing and scritching or whatever it is. As far as trying to write something more mainstream, panel I was in previously was discussing like Redwall, which I haven't read all of because I got tired of it after about 11 books.
Just read Redwall and you're done.
Well, it's like it's. I think there are exactly 0 sex scenes in Redwall. So is it something that as furry writers we can not write CSI follow-ups? I know that you both have. I'm just asking for expounding. I think.
All right. Well, since you asked, I hear from time to time that furry literature is taken over by porn, and that seems to be usually spoken by people who don't want to see furry literature contain any porn. And you're going by what you see in the dealer's room. I'm familiar with Sofa Wolf's and Fur Planet's catalogs, not so much with Rabbit Valley, but I know that Fur Planet's major releases this year, would you say, Tieran's right back there, would you say like 50-50 adult non? Or 60-40, 75-25? Yeah. Fur Planet's got a lot of non-sexual titles that they put out. Sofa Wolf probably 60-40 non-adult this year. And so but the problem is that the adult stuff kind of dominates the perception because it is out there. And, there would be people, from Comic-Con, people who would come up to the booth and say, okay, where's the dirty stuff? And we're like, it's in this little corner of the table, not in the entire rest of the booth. And they'd be like, oh, okay, and they would go right to that corner of the table. Well, I just want to see the dirty stuff. So part of the problem is not necessarily producing non-adult works. It's changing the perception of non-adult works, because part of the reason that the adult stuff is so popular is that is the stuff that people tend to latch on to because, for whatever reason. And that's the kind of stuff, I think, I have this whole long list of theory, way too long for this live show to go on, about why adult stuff, why specifically there's a lot of gay adult stuff in the furry fandom, is because there's not much other place to find gay adult fiction anywhere. You can find straight adult material just about anywhere. Pick up any fantasy novel, and 2 out of 3 chances it's going to have a fairly well-described sex scene in it somewhere.
Yeah, if look at Laurel K. Hamilton with the Anita Blake books. They're full of graphic sex scenes, but nobody's saying, "Oh, Laurel K. Hamilton is a porn writer." Her books are right up on the shelf in the fiction section, along with everyone else. And if you're 16 years old and you buy a Laurel K. Hamilton book, they're not going to card you and make you not buy it. Right.
And so I think Anyway, the gay adult stuff is what gets passed around a lot. The adult stuff it tends to be, you can't find like adult furry material anywhere else outside the fandom. You can find non-adult furry material outside the fandom. It's not hard. There's anime, there's manga, there's science fiction and fantasy. There's fantasy with cat people and wolf people and people who ride wolves and people in the non-adult sense, and then and just everything. If you're a furry and you just want stories with animals or animal people or intelligent animals, you can just go to Barnes & Noble and browse the shelves.
Yeah, like, hey, new Redwall.
Yeah, seriously.
So does that mean that, like, because you were saying earlier that there are stories you would call furry stories, but they're not because the authors don't identify as furry. So
Right.
is that the key?
Maybe. I mean, I think what I would recommend to people is look for the works that you like and want to promote, and promote them. Look for the works that are being published by Fur Planet, by Sofa by Rabbit Valley that are not adult, because they're publishing some good stuff. And read those and tell your friends about them and be as passionate about the non-adult works as the people who, this is the only place they can find that kind of fiction, and so they're passionate about it. Match that passion. But a lot of people really kind of prefer to put that passion into just complaining that there's too much adult stuff out there.
And obviously, like, Kyell and I are the last people who are going to complain about adult furry fiction.
Doing well. Yeah. Well,
we're not going to. But I mean, like, using like Laurel K. Hamilton as an example, I guarantee you there's like 20 times more sex in the latest Anita Blake book than there is in Shadow of the Father.
Yeah.
Which has like 2 very tame and tasteful scenes in like the whole thing.
Right.
Spoilers: Shadow of the Father is not full of yiffing.
Or in at least the current draft of Summerhill, which has one long scene, but then that's about it.
That's about it.
And my books have done pretty well out in the mainstream gay romance field, or the mainstream gay fiction, more gay romance, because they have those romantic elements, and they're a little less touchy about sex than the mainstream. But it's all a question of perception, and
we really could talk about this for days too.
Yeah, honestly,
we have like, between each other.
We've talked about it. Yeah,
talked about this extensively.
And in fact, you could have just asked that one question at the beginning of the podcast,
and we
could have gone on and filled one more question. Okay, Tech is limiting us to one more question. He says we have to be quiet now. That's why he's our filter. He's a good wolf.
Oh, there we go.
I don't know if Kiba's vocal enough to ask a question. Could we? We'll do that.
Ribs.
We'll do that to close the question section.
So I'm Skip.
Hi, Skip. You're Skip with 2 P's, right?
Yes, with 2 P's. Not sure how relevant this question is, but say you were like a professional writer, writing in mainstream, and then also writing in furry, sort of as a side thing. How would you decide how to allocate your time when you're writing on the mainstream stuff that their publishers want, or the stuff that you're writing for furry?
It would really depend on what sort of setup you had going. I mean, if I had a contract with a publishing house that they needed, stories or novels from me, like on a particular deadline, and that was what was putting food on the table, then I would obviously put that first.
Yeah, I think in the setup you've described, I'm going to assume that you would be writing mainstream stuff because that pays the bills, and you'd be writing furry stuff on the side because that's what you love. And in that case, I would say you would allocate your time to get the mainstream stuff done on contract, on deadline, and then to break it up, write the furry stuff that you love as you have the time. I mean, I can see, I have a job, and I write furry stuff kind of on the side and filling in the cracks of the days and every little minute that I can spare. And if I had a job writing mainstream fiction, mainstream nonfiction, mainstream whatever, I would treat it just the same. I would start writing at 9 in the morning, take a lunch break, end around 5, and then go off and write the stuff that I really love to write.
Yeah, I mean, like, my writing is something that I do in my free time, and I could just be writing, regular stories about regular people that I could try to be aiming for, different markets. But, since this is my free time, what I want to write is, stories about animals. And that's what I'm compelled to write. That's what I enjoy writing, so that's what I write.
Now, if all of y'all out there in the audience would just get 10,000 friends hooked on furry fiction, then we could write furry fiction full time and avoid that whole dilemma.
And then people will say, "Oh, how come you don't come with books more often?" Well, if neither of us had day jobs, hey.
Exactly. So how about a question from our canine guest? He's very cute down there.
He looks tired.
Not sure if he's enjoying the podcast, but he seems to be very mellow. So yeah, I will say so far that our experience at Rocky Mountain FurCon, just to fill in a little bit of time here, has been really good. It's always lovely to be in Denver and not have to be outside when it's 95 degrees. And we actually, though, missed the thunderstorm, but we did see a double rainbow.
We did, all the way.
You have to make that reference because I still have not experienced the initial.
After this, I'll take 3 minutes out of your life, Kyell, and
Now he's like, what's
that
that?
is
Now he just wants.
Do it again.
Aw. I think that's as good as we're gonna get. Let's. Yay, Kiba.
That is adorable.
And another one just for good measure. Thank you, Kiba.
now stay quiet for the game show portion of
Yes.
this panel.
I'm sure you'll get as many pets as you can handle. So, K-Tech, how are we going to do this? We need to pick
I need
two
you
people.
to pick 2 audience members.
All right. So, how are we going to pick 2 audience? We thought we should have.
We should have thought of this ahead.
We should have thought of this ahead of time.
We can play spin the bottle.
All right.
Wait.
Well, let's see. How many people out there would be interested in being a participant here?
Oh wow.
We have a bunch of late hands went up. So we have potentially 5, 6. I'm trying to think of a good way to do this. We could each pick a number between 1 and 10, and whoever comes closest, an integer counting number between 1 and 10. I know we have a lot of geeks in the audience. And whoever comes closest would...
Do we need to write them down first so that we know we're not doing shenanigans?
Sure, we can do that. All right, I'm going to write mine down.
All right,
And,
I'll write mine next to yours.
We're going to go... You can then use the same or a different one. So we're going to go... I'm going to start on this side, on the left side of the room and go this way. And when K-Fish does his number, he'll start on that side of the room and go the other way. And that way we will have the sort of even-handed chance to select the people. So, starting from the left-hand side of the room, anybody's interested, guess an integer counting number between 1 and... I'm sorry. An integer counting number between 1 and 10 inclusive. Does that cover all the bases? Am I nerdy enough for that? 7. No. 10.
10 is it.
All right. Write yours down.
All right.
Is Kimu going to be okay if you're... Okay. He's going to be handed over to someone else. All right.
Okay, so
Start over there.
7. No. 2. No.
Who's next? Who else wants to be going back this way?
5. No, alright.
6 then. 8.
No, okay. We went through the whole room.
I think it was 5 was closest.
Yeah, I think 5 is closest. Congratulations, Zia.
All right. Okay, so
These
come
are
on
our
up.
contestant chairs.
Yeah, come on up and introduce yourselves. Oh, and we should introduce for the people at home.
If you don't know the rules of this game.
We're going to be playing our own little sort of short variant of the $10, $25, or $100,000 pyramid. We have in advance prepared some categories with words. The first round is very much like password. We have 30 seconds to get 7 words. And then in the final round, there's the exciting pyramid, in which there's 6 categories, and we have to list off things in the category without using hands or other prompts.
No hands.
You cannot... do you have the rules? Do you want to just say them? Okay. In the early rounds, you can use hands, you can use hand gestures, You can stand up. You can do whatever you want, although don't stand up because then you won't be on the mic. The one thing you cannot do is say any part of the word that you're trying to guess.
And we do have a judge here, and apparently we do have a stick that we will use.
We have a judge with a stick.
I promised. Right, I felt like I did.
You did. You brought your staff to the Unsheathed. So you cannot use any part of the word that's on the screen. In the pyramid round, the winner circle, you cannot use your hands to gesture. The clues will be categories, as in, presidents of the United States, and all you can do is list things in those categories, and the other person has to guess the category from the things you're listing. So, let's introduce our two contestants. Playing with me will be
P-chan.
And here on the Hirosaki side, we have the ineluctable
C. McCorgy.
I'm going to leave it to our producer to tell us who's going to go first. And
Okay, heads.
it's heads.
Okay. So yeah, I'll start. Me and Zia.
Okay, so you're going to be listing off things and I'm supposed to guess the category? Is that
No, at this point, I'm going to be describing things and you have to guess what word it is.
Okay.
Okay, so there are instructions for the host here. So obviously, Kyell Gold, you should only be picking the ones that are gold. KM Hirosaki, you should only be picking the ones that are blue.
Okay. I have to start with tell me a porn story.
Tell me a porn story is the category. Basically, essential parts of an erotic story. And begin.
When characters talk to each other.
Dialogue.
Ding.
The main narrative thrust of the story. Which describes what happens.
The
The basic main thread of the story.
story?
No,
The
no.
storyline?
It describes the action and what the purpose of the story is. If it's pure porn, it doesn't have one of these.
A plot.
Yes. Okay. The people in the story.
The characters?
Time's up. Time's up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I believe that was 2.
That was yes. It was a stunning 2.
It was a stunning 2. And you do realize you can say skip if you do want. Not
Oh,
skip
yeah,
a
pass,
pick,
yeah.
but you
Okay.
can pass.
Okay, we didn't know that. But.
I'm trying to get you to get it.
Excellent.
I'm sorry.
So that's a feel of how this works.
All right. This episode is already awesome. Just because of the way he finally got you to guess plot. A porn story doesn't have one of these.
Okay, Mr. Gold.
I think we're going to have to go for "Excuse me, stewardess, I speak jive."
The category is "Excuse me, stewardess, I speak jive." Words having to do with furry slang.
Furry slang. This is when people use their claws to make someone else
Scritch?
Ding.
This is the sound people do when they're getting scritched.
Ding.
This is what's at the end of your leg.
Paw?
But at the end of your leg, not your hand.
Foot paw?
Ding.
This is what they do when they really like each other.
Yith?
Ding.
This is what an old fur is called.
Grey muzzle?
Yes.
Ding.
This is
Time's
what,
up. That was
Nice.
a very respectable 5, I believe.
It's okay, we can catch up to you.
No.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to go with our 43rd president. Oh.
The category is our 43rd president. Animals that begin with the letter W.
Okay, like Digger.
Wombat.
Ding.
Everyone has this as their persona.
Wolf.
Ding.
It's like a kangaroo.
Wallaby.
Ding.
Oh, crap.
Skip.
Yeah, pass. A famous cartoon bird. Alliterative name.
Skip.
He had the red head. Oh, damn it. It's a kind of bird that Welsh people eat.
Time's up.
kind of bird that Welsh people eat?
A red. Wow. Red. You could have said it was a character on Pirates of the Carrefour, no.
Or the name of the guy who designed St. Paul's Cathedral.
Oh, yeah, that would be perfect.
So you
I
would.
don't think we're making the winners.
No, really?
So what do you think? We have Telltales or Show Me the Money?
Telltales.
Telltales. We're going to take Telltales.
That is tales. Things you come.
Oh dear.
Things you come across in amateur furry smut stories.
Things you come across in amateur furry smut stories. Oh dear. This is when two characters meet and immediately they know they're going to be together for the rest of their lives.
True love? No. First love? Love at first sight?
Yes.
Ding.
This is what a character loses the first time they have sex with the mate they're going to be with forever.
Virginity?
Ding.
And this is what they found that first time they meet in each other. They're each other's...
Soulmates?
They're not false,
Time.
but...
True love?
I believe that was just 2 that time.
Yeah.
I thought you got true love in under the wire.
I'm upset you didn't get to see the rest of that category.
Oh, I'm sure we'll go down all the categories.
Can we get a quick score?
It is 5-7 with Kyell in the lead.
Okay.
Kyle, son.
We can still
KM,
catch up.
5.
So I guess our last category here is update your calendar. Oh.
That would
This is going to be
be
a tough one.
update your calendar. That is furry conventions.
Oh, joy.
Past and present.
Okay, I hope you know geography. Okay, it was like the big one in California for the longest time.
Califer?
No, before that.
Skip.
Yeah, pass. Okay, the one that Coggin is, but before the one he has now.
The one in Pennsylvania.
No, before that. In New York.
New York summer.
No, pass. Okay, it's in Germany.
Eurofurence?
Yes.
Ding.
We're here now.
Rocky Mountain Fur Con.
Ding. Time is up.
Just.
I will say, I believe it's tied right now.
It is.
It is tied.
So we just need to get one in this last category?
That is correct. You need to get one.
All right. So we're going for Show Me the Money.
Things you find in a dealer's room.
Okay. Things we find in a dealer's room. This is what people give to artists to draw a picture of their character in.
Books, sketchbooks.
Ding. That is it.
Yay!
We have a winner.
Yay.
Nicely done. Your categories were a lot of fun. I think on our next episode, or maybe actually, depending on how much time we have left at the end of this one. You have to come back. We have to do the winner's circle.
We're now going to the winner's circle for fabulous yaffs.
Yes, and what is our prize?
That's a good question, Kyle. What is our prize?
What is our prize? What are we giving the winner here?
I don't know. We didn't do the 7-Eleven, so I'm not sure.
We'll figure out something.
Yeah.
We'll talk afterwards.
It will be.
We'll
fabulous.
we'll buy a bottle of wine or something. Okay. Now,
Would you like to explain the winner's circle?
we're going to be, as we discussed earlier, there's going to be categories coming up on the board. I'm just going to be naming things that fit the category, and you have to tell me what the category is.
It's kind of the opposite of what you already did.
Right.
Okay.
And
Wow.
I'm not allowed to use my hands in any way, so I'm just going to sit on them here.
And there's 1 minute.
And there's 1 minute to get 6 of these. I don't think we're going to do it, but...
And...
A tail, ears, your T-shirt from...
Fursuit?
A fursuit, a T-shirt from your favorite comic book, your badge, your
Accessories?
your custom badge, your T-shirt. Next, yap, squeak, bark, meow,
Noises?
meow, bark.
Sounds that you make as a furry?
Can take that one.
Animal sounds?
We'll take that one.
There we go.
Oh, this pillow is so comfortable. These sheets are terrific. I love these. I love this comforter. It's so thick.
Things that make us murr.
I'm so tired. It's so good to rest after
I'm sorry
a long day.
that time is up.
We got one.
What were the other three?
That was okay. So that was what else?
I'm much better the other way around, obviously.
So yeah, the first one: ears, a tail, badges. Anyone else? What did I forget?
So okay, so we're going to do these two things. So we'll go through this one. So it was things you say, things you wear at a furry con. Sounds that an animal makes. It's the one you got.
I was trying not to go the erotic route, but
why?
Hi, what's your name? No. I wish I could sleep for 5 more minutes. These pillows are so soft.
Things you say. Things you say in bed.
Oh. You should have gone the erotic route.
Okay. Would you draw my character? How much do you charge to draw my character?
Things you ask somebody who does character drawings or who does personas or
furry artists.
Close
things
enough.
you ask a furry artist.
Oh.
Would you do a story all about my character having sex with copyrighted characters?
Fan fiction?
Would you give me a copy of your book for free, because then I'll give it to all my friends and they'll get to know your name?
Copyright infringement?
Would you do those are the two big ones I can think of.
Is there going to be a sequel to Waterways?
Is there going to be a sequel to Waterways? When are you going to do another book like that last one?
Can you write a sequel?
Can you put my character in your story?
Can you put my character in your story?
Things you
shouldn't ask a furry writer is the category. What's your hardest one there? I think they changed some of them.
Categories.
Okay, you're if you're a male character, and you fall in love with another male character, but there's trouble and people are sad throughout, and there's some sex, and maybe there's some mind control, and
wow, I don't think I'm ever gonna guess this.
But the ending is kind of bittersweet and sad, and nobody's really happy.
Story. Right.
You are correct. Signs you're in a KM Hirosaki story.
KM Hirosaki story. Oh, Kim Hirosaki is bright red right now.
Oh,
I haven't read
really want to
stories,
show them
so-
the other categories. So.
Okay, I think the last one we'll do is we did two final winners circle pyramids. One was for Kyell if he won. One was for KM. So I think it's only fair if KM, you sit on this side of the mic. Kyell, you go to the other side now. First of all, a hand for our wonderful guests that participated in this.
But I can't sit on the other side because I know those categories, or do I not?
You may not know all of those categories.
I don't? Okay.
You were tricky. You didn't like my categories.
Oh boy, it's not that we didn't like them. We just thought of ones we liked better.
This works too. You need your badge, Mr. Peachan.
Just so you know, this is a sign that we've finally run out of people to play with, so now me and Kyell have to play with each other.
Take that. No.
Take it as hard as you can. Right.
Oh, I can maybe read the reflection in your visor. No, I can't.
Okay, since you do know some of these, I will give you. This is for 1 minute.
1 minute? Okay.
All right.
No hand signals, remember, or no paw signals.
Haha. Opening ceremonies, closing ceremonies.
Things at a furry con. Events at a furry con.
Naked foxes. Erotic artwork.
Things that are sexy.
Yes. Robin Hood, The Lion King.
Furry movies.
Where do you come up with the ideas for your stories?
Things fans ask writers.
Yes. Oh my god, I hate you.
Things a flustered otter would say.
Girl on girl sex.
Things you won't find in a Kyell Gold story.
That is correct. 45 seconds.
You knew those answers.
I knew a couple of them. I did a couple of those categories, but I didn't do the last one. I was just guessing based on what the last one was at the previous pyramid. So I did have a few advantages there.
Oh my god, I hate you.
I knew that category. I was expecting you to say, "What's happening?" Because that was your famous line. Well, wow. So what did you guys think? Should we try to do this again, or should we switch game shows? Resounding applause. All right. Well, I want to thank P-Chan and Zia for participating. The early rounds were a lot of fun. The pyramid was a lot of fun too.
It was a lot of fun, actually.
But I specifically want to give a big shout out to K-Tech, who spent a good portion of today working on this pyramid and the technical details to get it done, and managed to pull it all together with a borrowed projector, a laptop from his work, I think.
And they should never know about this.
That's okay. We never mentioned where you work. And we never will. And really just did all the programming with, is it like a DOS emulator that, it was real. I thought we could just use like a PowerPoint template and it would be fun and simple and easy. And he goes out there and he's just like, well, that would be easy, but it would be a little tricky. I found this emulator. I found this DOS version of Pyramid, and I downloaded the DOS emulator to make it work, and then just going through all these. So please, big round of applause for K-Tech, who made this all possible. Just one of the many things he has helped realize, he has helped bring into the real world based on stupid things I've said in a moment of silliness. And in this case, it was Cam Hirosaki and I believe it's on one of our Unsheathed episodes, going back and forth and saying, "Oh my God, we should totally do Pyramid." At which point, Kit says, "I foresee a lot of work in my future." But he, as always, is the bedrock upon which this podcast is situated. And we could literally, there he is. We could literally not do it without him. Cheers.
Cheers.
So, does anybody else have anything they want to say or contribute? Anyone?
Yaf.
We've had a request for some yaf.
I think we already did that, didn't we?
Okay, yeah, we did.
House of 1,000 yafs.
Yes, 150 yafs. Oh yeah, we didn't actually announce the values on the pyramid. You know, where they were like $150. It was on our screen was 150 yafs, 250 yafs. So I think me and P-Chan won. Was it 250 yafs? I think that was it. We skipped the first one, yeah. But we won one.
150 yafs.
150. All right. Well, we want to thank all you guys for coming out. We want to thank Rocky Mountain FurCon for allowing us to do this at not literally the last minute, but the email response I got from the events coordinator was, well, I think we have the space, but we're like a day away from sending the con book to press, so I don't know if we can put it in there. But they allowed us to have this room, gave us way more time than we asked for, gave us a projector, gave us a screen, extension cords. They ran and got everything we needed, and they've been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, big hand. And we're going to bid all of y'all good night.
And, yeah, people who are here in the flesh can come talk to us afterwards.
Yep, we're going to do our usual sort of hang around a bit after the con. You can write to us at unsheathedpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us at Unsheathed on Fur Affinity. I'm Kyell Gold on Twitter, Kyell Gold on LiveJournal, Kyell on FA.
I am Cam Hirosaki on all three of those.
And come find us, listen to our episodes on iTunes, and come to our next show at the next convention.
How many people here have not listened to the show before?
Anybody?
Aha.
Kind of, sort of? 2, 3 people?
Oh.
2.5.
Well, 3 people out of 300 ain't bad.
Yeah.
Our next live show will be hopefully at Rainforest.
Yes.
We actually have that on the events calendar. And then we will see if we have to do our fall furry meet again.
Or will we?
Or will we?
So, good night, everyone.
And keep writing.